Spittin Sports. This is Spittin Sports.
Hey, yo.
Spittin Sports with Landon, Chris, and Hunter.
Let's go.
Ew.
Hey, that's hot. That is hot.
That is dope, bro.
What's up, y'all? This is Spittin Sports with Lando, K. Will, and H. Sands.
What it do, baby?
No particular order, but back again. The show must go on, boys. This is, what do we got? Is this episode 6 now? 7?
Yeah,
I
y'all
think
would know,
so.
I wouldn't.
Piling up.
Stop the count. It's been a busy day for all of us, actually. Chris had an eventful evening with his father.
Yep.
So,
Wow.
this is therapy.
Yeah.
Welcome into therapy session
Join us,
101 right here. Please join us. Boys, I wanted you guys to start off with something that was in the middle of our last pod. I just got back listening to today. It was fire, by the way. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, go check it out on at The Lando Show on YouTube, youtube.com/The Lando Show. Also, Shooting the Shit with Sands on his podcast. He will be having some of our clips posted over there as well. So make sure you're subscribed on both of those two specific channels. But with that being said, we have the NBA postseason is rapidly approaching, as is the NFL draft. Those are going to be two of the main topics today.
go, man.
First, though,
I'm geeked.
I know. Chris has the Eagles jersey ready. He's got 3 first-round draft picks to enjoy this year. Sands has his jersey ready. Obviously, he's got the Mike Evans with the Super Bowl patch on the left shoulder. Man, okay. They're flexing on me right now because I actually don't have a Super Bowl in my lifetime. Well,
But you got a
technically, I
Michael
was
Irvin
alive,
jersey,
but
right?
I do have a Michael Irvin
There
jersey.
you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Just
Yeah,
etch-
so I got.
etch the patch on
I'm.
there. Just
Yeah,
etch the
yeah, we
patch
can
on
do
one of
that.
them
We can make it
forwards with
happen.
that.
It's gonna happen one of these days, I believe. But the play-in, okay? I don't think it's been made perfectly clear, so I just wanted to give you guys the floor to explain it again. The 7 and 8 and the 9 and the 10, the whole scenario, how it shakes out. The East is tight right now. Chris, you mentioned off air
Yep.
that there's currently a 3-way tie right now between, is it 7, 8, 9? Is that what you said?
8, 9, 10.
Or is it 8, 9, 10?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
For the play-in. So, talk about that.
So yeah, Matt, like Landon said, there's a tie between 8, 9, 10. Cleveland's 7 hole. You got Chicago and Toronto in the 5, 6. They're tied in the loss column. The 3, 4, Boston and Philly are tied in the loss column. And the 1, 2, Milwaukee and Miami is tied in the loss column. So you're talking about 4 losses separating 1 from 6 right now, basically. And to tie it back into the play-in, 7 through 10 are in the play-in, right? We touched on this on our last pod, but I probably wasn't very clear.
And this is for the East?
Yeah, this is for the East. Yep. We can
Okay.
roll to the West, too, because I know, for our Dallas listeners out there, and, Landon's
Yep.
obviously a big Mavs fan, so we can hit on that. But, Sands, you could jump in on here, too. So the play-in right now, the way it works is the top 6 seeds are locked, right? And then the NBA added the play-in, I suppose, for a couple reasons, to incentivize not tanking. Right, because right now, look, in a normal season with the Lakers sitting at 31 and 43 or 44, whatever the hell they are, 13 games under 500, you should be nowhere near sniffing even a chance to go to the damn postseason. But here they are, and we've harped on this all year on this pod, off the air. You still don't want to see LeBron and AD in a playoff series. I know they suck
No.
when they do, but you still don't. But
And he's coming back.
They're coming back tomorrow, I think, right?
Yep.
Aren't they?
Yep,
Yeah.
AD's back
Yeah.
tomorrow. LeBron's still questionable, but yeah, AD's supposed to.
And
come
tomorrow,
back.
this is, I don't have my watch on. This is is today officially April 1st? Or no?
not yet.
Not quite. So we're 30
minutes
minutes,
out.
Nah.
Yeah.
33-minute
Still
warning.
Nia's
Okay.
birthday. Trust
Oh
me.
yeah,
I
happy
know.
birthday.
Hey, happy
Didi.
birthday, Nia.
Yeah. So yeah, not to get too sidetracked, and I sound like Brian Windhorst right now talking about the Lakers when we're supposed to be focusing elsewhere, but I'll try to get off that. The funny thing is, man, we're talking about the play-in, right? It's relevant. They play they play the Pelicans tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Which for everyone that doesn't know, those two are basically locked up right now as far as in the standings at the 9-10 hole. With the Spurs,
Yep.
right
There's a buzz.
With the Spurs right on the rear.
There's a
of
buzz
both
in
of
the
them.
city.
With the Spurs right on the rear of both of them. So the loser that
We're
could
actually going to watch a basketball game.
the loser that could very well be out of the play-in, which is kind of crazy. But to tie it all back together, right now they've got it set up. The 7 seed plays the 8 seed, right?
Yep, and the 7 hosts
The
the
7
8.
hosts the 8, right? They give it to the higher seed, and the 9 will host the 10. 2 separate winner-take-all games. The winner of the 7-8 secures the 7 slot.
So they're automatically in
So they're
once
in.
that happens.
Yep.
The
You
winner
only-
of that game is in.
You only have to win one game if you're in the 7-8 hole. The loser of the 7-8 will play the winner of the 9-10 game. They will host.
Yep, and the
winner
loser of the 9-10 is automatically
loser of
bounced.
9-10's out. So if you're in the 7-8, you got two chances, winner take all, which to tie it back in, you would think favors Brooklyn, right? I got a hard time buying that Brooklyn's going to lose 2 games between the banged-up Cavaliers and either the Hawks or the Hornets.
And after tonight's loss in overtime to the Bucks, I didn't check the standings after that. Where is Brooklyn at currently?
So they're listed in the 8 hole. I think they've got the 3-way tiebreaker, but I do know, if I'm not mistaken, I think Charlotte has the head-to-head on Brooklyn. So if there were a scenario where Atlanta is not tied, they lose the head-up tiebreaker with Charlotte. And to our point, they just played Charlotte the other day. They lost that game. So as much as we all want to sit here and say, I can't see Brooklyn losing 2 games, they can lose 1, right? So if they're in the 9-10 and they're hosting Charlotte, no guarantees here, and which we're all rooting for.
Anything like you said, anything goes. Anything goes in that game.
When, you just one game.
With
this ain't a 7-game series.
Playoff game 7 level intensity.
Exactly.
With professionals out there, like you said, anything goes. So yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think Kyrie shot 6 for 21 when they played Charlotte, and KD was 9 for 23. Like all it takes is one bad shoot night from your studs, and you're up out of there.
Kyrie didn't have the most efficient scoring night tonight either.
Yeah.
I mean, at least down the stretch, he was less efficient than you normally see him with all those big shot make ability. But
and I will say,
Drew Holiday had him in a
Drew Holiday
body bag.
Yeah, he does that. I'll pass over Sands here, but I want to throw in the play-in's awesome, man. I think it got a little less interesting to me in the East because what we've been looking at all year is Toronto in the 7 hole, and which still they've got a 3-game lead on the Cavs. This isn't going to happen, so we're probably wasting breath here now. But the thing is, New York might have lifted their mandate, but Canada has not. So Kyrie would have still been ineligible if they were to play Toronto in the 7-8 hole. But that seems kind of out of the way now. So yeah, man, the East is hella tight. The West is Minnesota, Clippers, Pelicans. The Spurs are actually in right now. I'm looking at the standings. So the Spurs must have the tiebreaker.
They got the 10 spot.
Yeah, so the Spurs in 2022 had the tiebreaker over the AD and LeBron. I know they haven't been healthy, but the AD and LeBron Lakers is kind of crazy. With LeBron winning the scoring title right now. So
how many games have those two guys played together this year?
It's less than 30.
Many, man.
Yeah, I was about to say. I was going to say, can we even count on both hands? But it's less than 40% of the season.
I'll pass to Sands right here. Honestly, man, they weren't good when they played together. Anyways, so it ain't like
AD was horrific shooting the ball. It was kind of crazy.
To start the year.
You know what's wild about the Spurs? Dog, this was a year where people, you could legitimately say you didn't know if Pop was going to get the all-time win record, and he only needed, 30 wins. He only needed, 28 or 30.
Their Vegas
and you would look at the roster
Their Vegas over
yeah, so you're like, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to get this win record, even though he's probably the greatest coach of all time other than Phil Jackson. I think Phil Jackson's a tad overrated because he had Kobe and Mike. But, I mean...
Pop had some good teams, too, though. It's hard to quantify coaching when
Yeah.
you're not in the building. Who knows what makes a good coach?
Yeah.
All good coaches win with superstars. It all goes hand in hand. But
yeah, Pop. But the play-in.
Yeah.
Yes.
The play-in. I think it's kind of cool. The reason I like it is a situation even for the Heat last year, where it's a COVID-ridden team, it's an injury-ridden team, but if you had that winning, like the Raptors weren't supposed to be here right now. They should not be in the 6 hole, but if they were in the play-in, then you go, oh, they have that winning culture. They make it work when the season kind of go. When you get to that All-Star break or past it, you really see who the cream of the crop is, honestly.
Right, they start to rise
but those injury-prone teams, like if somebody lost a star, i.e. the Lakers, you lose a star.
Star or 3.
You don't look good. I'm not going to say they look the same. But you don't look the same, I guess. But you get the chance at the end of the season. You and smashing Capri Sun's disgusting. Bro.
Slay those
26, 27.
I'm a dad now. I got to pass.
They are slept on, though.
You're going to be eating all Hagen's fruit snacks when she gets older.
Snacks, Capri's, Cosmic Brownies, bro. That's the diet.
Disgusting, bro. But yeah, I just think that it
applesauce.
gives teams a chance to really make up for a season that was lost. Even a season like where Kyrie doesn't get vaccinated and he doesn't play 70% of the games. They're still right there.
Yep.
And you're afraid
there.
of them. And that's what happens. I think that's why the play-in is pretty cool. And once again, it stops tanking, even though, I don't know, tanking is what it is. We saw the rigged NBA lottery by David Stern with the Knicks. So, who knows? Who knows if it really stops anything.
Tanking unless you're at the top of the bracket on the Eastern Conference side of things and you're pseudo-tanking to avoid the Nets at the back end.
Did y'all see Rob Perez's tweet today? Wob, I retweeted it.
Nuh-uh.
It was it was like a sit-around table of Milwaukee watching all the top teams in the East tank to avoid the Nets. It was like Milwaukee's like the big dog and everybody else is like, let's go ahead and slide down the standings a little bit. But that's kind of funny.
I don't want them. I tell you that.
Cool slipping.
We can keep talking playoffs too, but I did want to touch on, since we're on the play-in topic. To your point, Sands, I don't know how much that stops tanking. It definitely does a little bit, but when you combine that with
that's what I'm saying.
When you combine that with the new lottery odds, to your point, that's what stops tanking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's because now you are no longer rewarded for winning 12 games. You're not. You could have the worst record in the league, and you might get the 7th pick in the draft. You just don't. The odds are not in your favor anymore. Look at the Pelicans.
Other than the Cavs.
Right. Look at the If you're Cleveland, you're getting the one hole, bro. Like,
you keep getting ones and twos. What the hell?
Yep. So it's awesome, man. It's kind of cool, and I think Zach Lowe touched on this too. The Pelicans are watching. The Pelicans have every incentive to knock the Lakers out of the play-in because the Pelicans are looking at that pick because they got all them picks from the AD trade going to New Orleans.
Yeah,
so
that's right. How many?
They're rooting for.
How
the
many
Lakers.
picks is that again?
I can't even say it's about 4 picks, 4 swaps.
I honestly don't even remember. I know it was a lot.
Everything you can give is what it was. Like
yeah.
Like,
the max that you can give out into the future.
Take all our swaps.
Is LeBron got AD?
Yeah,
that's all I remember. I'm not a Lakers fan. It was a LeBron fan.
They got a chip, so they won the trade. But,
yeah, they won the trade. It was worth it.
No,
however many ones it was worth it.
The play-in's gonna be exciting, man. Honestly, I don't.
Oh,
I think personally, Sands Brooklyn's probably the only team in that 7 through 10 range that can make real playoff noise. Like I think we'd agree. Like Trae Young's annoying. I don't. You know where I sit on the Hawks. Like I still have PTSD from last year's series. So give me Trae Young. Like I'm trying to see that little ass midget again.
Me too.
I'm trying to see that little midget again.
I would love to see him.
You sound like me talking about Kyler, bro.
I do. Exactly. It's the same syndrome.
Yeah,
bro.
the same disdain. I respect
you
it.
really have disdain for Kyler. It's kind of insane.
I really do.
Fantasy
I really
does
do.
that to him,
Fantasy will break you. It will break a grown-ass man.
You know what's crazy? Fantasy broke him, and the guy went to A&M and Oklahoma. Like, I mean,
bro,
it
the
can't
two
be
biggest
set
rivals.
up anymore.
Yeah, y'all see this shit in the background right here, bro. Y'all know.
Like,
that's the
it
trifecta.
couldn't
tried
get
to
any
like
worse
him.
for Landon.
That's the trifecta.
I tried to like him. I gave him a chance.
Tried to put the
bro.
bias aside, and it didn't help.
It didn't
But
work. It
getting into the
backfired.
playoffs,
Yeah.
I have an interesting take on this.
Okay.
So in the East, what I see is, me and Chris touched on this pre-pod. I think it's interesting in the East. You
Before
don't want to dodge. Before you just hop out like Candyman. You really don't want to play anybody except for maybe one or two teams. But I think in the East they really just talk about how good the conference is as a whole, whereas in the Western Conference, you kind of go, okay, Memphis and Phoenix are favorites. And then it's the field, but then you go look at the standings. And there's some, I think it's going to be amazing in the West now. Go look at these matchups.
Yeah.
I think you got the Jazz and the Mavs, the T-Wolves and the Grizzlies. You got the Clippers and the Suns, which we saw what they did. Paul George is back. We saw what they did with Paul George versus them without Kawhi. Like, you're looking at matchups make the fights in every single playoffs in every single sport. And I just think even in the NFL. You know what I'm saying?
That's a juicy top. Hey, you read my mind over here. That's where we're going next.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yeah. It just made me think, like, wow, like we're talking about the East and how close it is, and it makes it seem like it's going to be really close. But when you really go look at the East, you think there's only probably two contenders out of that conference, and I'm not even including Brooklyn, since they're so off and on all the time. I would say 76ers in the Nets, or the 76ers in the Bucks, because of the star power they have. And then you go look at the West, and you have one favorite, really, and then you see all those matchups of the – it's going to be really fun to see those matchups, even though the second round I don't think will be as good. But those first round matchups, as it's shaping up right now, which is kind of
juicy.
not solidified but getting there.
Yeah.
It's very interesting in the West. I can't wait to see it.
Real quick, you mentioned the Bucks and the Sixers as the two main contenders. Did you leave the Celtics out because of the Robert Williams injury?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So now, yeah.
I
So
have to
I think
agree
we all
with
kind of
that.
agreed the
It's a massive
Celtics were
loss.
a force to be reckoned with before that injury. For those out there who don't know, Robert Williams is kind of their high-flying center. They're kind of their rim protector, their do-it-all guy in the paint, right? And that's a piece that they don't really have
Yep. Otherwise, yep.
another option
No.
for, So, like, it's
Al
a big
Horford
blow
and
to the
Daniel
Celtics.
Tice.
Yeah.
But not
Daniel
Rob.
Tice, more of your grounded, big body guy that's not going to fly around the way that Robert Williams does. That's a big loss for a Celtics team that prides themselves in the way that they play defense. So I just wanted to also throw that out there.
I've got to give love to, it's crazy, man. We're touching on the drop between Rob Will and Tice and Horford, right?
Yeah.
Every time I see Daniel Tice now, he's like multiple-time defensive player of the year in Europe. Like, that's the drop-off.
Yeah.
It's just kind of crazy. Like, that's a defensive
Wait,
player of the
y'all
year.
I think
said
he was
that
the
before.
MVP over
He might
there.
won MVP.
I think
Y'all
he was the
said-
MVP.
It's just like,
Yes.
it's crazy. The pros are so damn good.
I
man.
remember reading that. Y'all were having this crazy convo in the text chat one time, and I came across that topic when y'all were saying Daniel Tice was like this just
bro.
unreal baller overseas, and I was like, wait, what? This
Right.
It's just shows you how talented the NBA really is. It's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's wild, man. But
It's insane.
I know to jump in right here, Sans touched on the playoffs, man. It's funny, like, to your point, everyone looks at the East as like the whole conference is stacked, right? Like,
Yeah.
the first round is going to be a bloodbath, bro. Like, no matter how you draw
It's
it up.
gonna, yeah.
But you go to the standings, and like 1 through 7 in the West, the records are like identical. But
Yes.
but the feel for the teams is different, like you said. Like, Phoenix is obviously head and shoulders. I think if you inject a healthy Steph Curry, Golden State's like in the mix, right? Like, if they play together,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you get good Klay Thompson, we have to see if he can. We kind of keep saying just give him time. Well, clock's ticking, brother. Like, I
He
don't know if
looks
he's
like-
going to show
Tick,
form.
tick, 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 tick.
I know.
Before I let you go,
This might be
I-
like
I will
what
say
Klay
this.
is now.
He-
I want to give
he
him some
looks like
time.
a
He's been off for
6'7"
3
Lou
years.
Will. I'm
Yeah.
not joking.
And he's definitely
He-
he's forcing
when he
shots.
plays,
You can tell. He's
he
shooting
is
a ton of
trigger
mid-range right
happy.
now, like off one leg.
Oh
like, he's
my
shooting a lot of-
god.
And a lot of that
Yeah.
is because he hasn't played. with
It's
Steph
almost
Andrew.
like he's sped up internally.
well, and
Yeah.
Y'all
I
feel
don't
that?
blame him, right?
That's the way I
He
feel.
has to prove
I agree.
himself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he probably feels like he does because the guy hasn't played in 3 years. You know,
2
like, I
years.
don't blame him
Yeah.
at all. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a long time, man. But to my point, you go down 1 through 7, and like the records are identical, but there's not the same feel. And I say that to say, like, Utah, they just don't look right this year at all. Like,
Yep.
all of that, like, locker room talk, that like the Donovan Mitchell Gobert clash, like, all of that feels like it's coming to a head. While they're 15 games over 500, and I'm not saying they're a bad team, but they don't feel real. Like, I was texting Tony, my coworker, who's a big Mavs fan, and I said, "Who do you want, Denver or Utah?" And he said Utah, and
Yeah,
that's just
that's
like
who I
kind of
want too.
crazy to me because that's who
Yeah.
Mavs Twitter wants.
Yep.
But
That's who I want.
they're a fully loaded Utah team, whereas Denver is just Nikola Jokic. Yet people still want
Literally.
to see Utah. Like, that's how we
Yeah.
feel about Utah. It's wild, man. And like,
I honestly think a lot has to do with the fact that Joe Ingles is no longer there.
yeah, no, he,
Like,
I
he
Sans- Sans
touched
been harping
on
that
this.
forever.
Dude, like, yes,
You
that's
can't quantify as a fan what a guy mean. Like, team morale is a lot. There's a lot to be said, man, about like
he was like the glue.
right. And you hear this across football and basketball. Experts love to harp on like the chemistry and the locker room jive, and as a fan, we like
Yeah.
to brush it off and simply say, no, they just got to play better. But there's like a real component to having a steady
Oh,
glue leader in the locker
absolutely.
room that ties it all together. And Ingles was kind
And
of
that's
that
what he
guy.
was.
And
yeah.
it's got to rub some
You know
people
me
wrong.
as
Right, and like all year long before he tore his ACL was Joe Ingles is like our trade piece. Like, he just
Yep.
has to be the expendable one that can extract real value. He tears his ACL. They trade him for nothing. Nikhil Alexander
Literally
Walker
next
was
to
like
nothing.
barely
Nikhil
even
Exal-
playing. So they burn their
That's my
they
point.
burn their trade.
They didn't even
not
trade him
only-
for a vet.
Right, they not only burn their trade chip, but they trade their most beloved locker room guy for nothing. Like, that has to send waves and resonate around the locker room. So, like, all that to say, like, Utah just feels off. Denver, for as good as they are, no one's taking them seriously. Probably if they're playing a top 3 seed in the West, right? Like it's just Jokic. So
Yeah.
and they got swept by Phoenix, which is no shame. Phoenix was up 2-0 in the finals. I don't want to discredit Denver, but like they're not feared. And then Golden State, you just have health question marks everywhere, and I just think the West, while the records are the same, I don't think there's the same kind of fear, if you will, for a lot of the teams that make up that conference like there are in the East. But I could be wrong on that.
Also
That's
think
just
just
kind of
that
the feel right now.
the shadow of Jamal Murray lurks too.
And that's a good point too. Yeah, like he could be
For
better.
that Denver team. I mean,
Michael
that's
Malone
a
left
team
the
I
door
want no
open.
part of.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So I definitely don't want to see the Nuggets if I'm
And if
also
he comes
adding
back-
that guy to that equation. Yeah, I mean,
God.
good luck. But so where are we at here? Back on track. I just completely lost my train of thought.
Just harping on playoffs, man. Like the seeding's not done in the West, right? Like the 3
Matchups
Oh,
make fights.
okay.
Yeah, like
That's
Dallas.
okay. That's it.
They're tied with the Warriors in records, so like the 3-4 is very much
Yep.
open. We have like 5 or 6 games now, and I think they're up 2 games on the 5 and 6. So that's not locked per se. Sixers just went on a 3-game skid. You just never know how you're going to close the year. So yeah, man, seeding in both conferences is very much in the air. So it's going to be fun coming down to the wire, no doubt.
So 3 things, and if I can remember to say it quickly, so I don't completely just lose the listener. The styles make fights. I do want to touch on that. The whole giving credit for general managers when things giving credit to the players when things are going well, like Sans touched on last week, which I thought was brilliant. And also when things aren't going well, we want to blame the GM, but they never get the credit for when things are going well behind the scenes, right? For building rosters to sustain losses, like Memphis is just running wild right now without a potential MVP candidate in Ja Morant. He's gone, and they're still just not skipping a beat, right? Sans
18-2
touched on
without him.
maybe that guy that's responsible for the team building there deserves a little bit of credit, right? And then the third thing is, and again, I don't know if that's too much ramble. We might have to write this down.
You're good.
But the third thing, Chris made another brilliant point that, again, I want to touch on, because when you guys say stuff, man, it's almost like commonplace, and we just kind of brush it off as in, yeah, we accept it, we understand it, but it's wildly important stuff, and I'm just blown away half the time by the banter. But Chris mentioned when discussing the MVP, like the term valuable, the V in between the M and the P, like how do you quantify that, right? And he brought up a point. It's
hard.
It's almost as if when like say when Joel Embiid is not on the floor, how good is his replacement? And if that replacement is good, does Joel get lesser of the credit for the team not falling when he's not on the floor? Does that make sense?
And
It's
do they blame the GM?
Right. So it's all kind of connected, but
Yeah.
styles make fights was one. The GMs getting credit for roster building, right, when things are going well. And then 3, that the third part of that was the whole Joel Embiid thing, like for the MVP case, like how well or how are you graded based on how well the guy behind you plays as far as your value in the
Right.
in the MVP race. So
Yeah.
I don't know where to go first.
Well, with one.
One was styles.
The styles make fights.
Yeah, you hit on.
So with
you hit on
styles
one
make
because I want to hit
fights.
on 2 actually. So
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, I know. So, on one, styles make fights. As a Heat fan, I'm not bullshitting you. I am not scared of one team in the East, but probably the Bucks.
Yeah.
Now, is there history there? Yes. But once again, styles make fights. Why are they scary opposed to the 76ers or the Nets? All right. The way your team is built, my team is built for Jimmy to get beelines to the rim and get to the free throw line. For Bam to get pick and roll lobs and for him to get aggressive and cook. He can't do that on Brook Lopez. Jimmy can't do that when every switch he is seeing Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, or Giannis Antetokounmpo.
They're
Like,
crazy switching,
what
man.
what are we supposed to do? There's just things like that. If we see the 76ers, I would love to see Tyrese Maxey or James Harden guarding Kyle Lowry. I would love that. I would absolutely love to see that because we're going to make them work. But
I'd like to argue
when
right
it
now,
comes
but
to
I
those
can't. So go ahead. I mean,
yeah, it's like it is what it is. And
we
I'm not
got
taking anything from
Heat
the
fan
Sixers.
talking to Sixers fan. For those that don't know,
Yeah, like I don't take anything from the Sixers. They got the star power. That's the thing that's giving them a projection is only because they have 2 last names on the back of their jerseys on the roster right now, which is insane. But I digress.
Y'all see us playing friendly right now, bro. If Philly and Miami's in a series, this podcast is getting a hell of a lot more hostile, bro.
I think this
it's gonna be
podcast is going
changed to
viral.
haymakers.
Yeah, it's gonna get hostile real quick, man.
But yeah, and then in the West, for instance, even like if you're a Mavs fan, I feel as though if you're looking at matchups, you're going, who on the other 9 teams that are in contendance for the playoffs can guard 77? Who?
Nobody, not even Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, as referenced by the 2 playoff series last year.
The only
and
guy
the
that
year
has a
before.
shot when he's locked in is sitting on the sideline with a torn ACL. So, like, I mean, that's the only dude who can really even bother him.
Yep.
Ben Simmons is the other
And
one,
then
but
just
he's,
like-
he's sitting somewhere on the
Yeah,
sideline in a
he's-
gold chain and whatever. Like,
Yeah, in a Louis Vuitton sweater.
Yep.
Dope sweater, though.
dope sweater.
But and then, for instance, and I'm just going to keep giving examples until I get blue in the face. If I'm Chris, if I'm a 76ers fan, give me somebody that can guard 21. Joel Embiid. Give me a human. Give me a name on planet Earth that's going to guard him.
Yep.
A warm
Nobody.
body, not a soul.
So why would I be scared of anybody that doesn't have size or can't match up with me with that one guy? But then you start looking at other positions. James Harden getting Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis every possession. You're going to get a little scared.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to get pretty damn
sure,
scared.
man.
Or Kevin Durant shooting over James Harden, Tobias Harris, and Tyrese Maxey. It just gets a little scary.
Yep.
That's all I'm saying with matchups is it makes the fight.
No, that's good, man. I like, to your point, man, I think, I know we both do this. Like, the first thing I look at in the playoff series is who has the best player, and then who has the least competent player defending that player, right? So, like, Sands can touch on this.
Yeah.
Like,
that's good
talk,
stuff.
I talk about this all the time, man, and Dallas fans can attest to. They have, like, a true generational, like, superstar. The first thing I look at every single night, I've watched every game this year but one, is who is the opposing center. Like, who? Like,
Every
that's
night.
the first thing I look at, bro. So I tell Sands this all the time. Give me Chicago in the first round, because Embiid will put Vucevic seven, bleachers deep in the stands. He's gonna average like a cool 34 and 14 on the series, and we probably gonna move on in 5 or 6. But I ain't trying to see Toronto because they're long, and Nick Nurse, like, they may not have the guy to stop Joel Embiid, but he talked about this on JJ's pod. He said Toronto is the team, man. They will double and triple team me from 30 out. Like, they will make anybody else on the team.
Joel said that today?
Joel said that on JJ's
On the pod?
He said he hates playing Toronto because they will double and triple him from 30 feet out, and they don't care. They're going to make somebody else beat them. They don't let him play around the post.
I haven't even
JJ's pod's good. Go
heard
listen
that
to
pod, and I swear I
need
hadn't
to
even
today.
heard that pod, and I said that today. I said 76ers are in the 3 spot right now. They do not want to see Toronto because Nick Nurse will literally, and I'm not even kidding, send 4 people at Joel if he has to.
Yep.
He does not care.
Yep.
Well,
Which is insane.
you may not remember, Sands, but you actually said it last week too. So that's further proof that you hadn't heard
okay.
that pod yet. You said it in the last pod in a different
okay.
way, but you mentioned that. So that's interesting.
Yeah, he ain't scared.
Yeah, but and like I feel the exact same way about the Heat. Like, the Heat, as a whole, that's a damn good team, man. And you know that more often than not, you're going to have the coaching advantage. Which, in my opinion, to y'all's point about GMs, it's hard. Philly fans, we every single time we lose, we blame Doc Rivers. It's never the players, which cracks me up.
Right.
We absolve them of all responsibility, and it's Doc's rotations, and it's the backup center. Like, that's who we kill when we lose. But to my point, I think a lot of the times in the regular season, the coaching is kind of done during the week. Like, they don't practice much. The coaching, like, kind of gets their generic sets, but he's not installing anything crazy, right? If you're Philly, you're running straight up pick and roll with James Harden, Joel Embiid. Like, that's an elite offense in and of itself. But when the playoffs come around and you got a game plan for one team and you got to see them every 2 nights, that's where coaching really rears its head. That's why if you give Ty Lue a competent squad, like, Ty Lue is a damn good coach, man. Spoelstra, that's a damn good coach. Nick Nurse, that's a damn good coach. Doc Rivers, he's shown an inability to adjust. So I also, as a Philly fan, look at the coaching matchup because I think that kind of rears its head a little bit more in the playoffs too. If y'all kind of catch my drift there.
That's what I've always questioned about
There's
Philly.
matchups. Basically, what y'all are getting at is the matchups do make the fights. The styles make the fights.
and
But the
and
matchups go beyond just what's on the floor.
For
It's
sure.
on the sideline,
Yes.
too.
And it's very much like you guys would agree. It is, in my opinion, the most talent-driven sport because in football you have 11 guys who have to be in sync. Right?
11,
You can
right.
have one LeBron
Just the ratio
James,
of-
right.
of-
You can
yeah,
have one
yep,
LeBron James and he's going to impact. The guy's going to go to the finals with Boobie.
One
Gibson,
player's
the big
impact
seed.
is drastically felt more
Yeah.
on a smaller.
like 8 times in a row.
Right, but
Yeah.
all things considered, when you start getting deep into the playoffs, and you're looking at similar level talents maybe across the board, then what is the determining factor? And coaching matters a little bit there. So I just find that
I
fascinating,
mean,
man.
you even look at the Ty
That's
Lue
well said.
adjustment to put Nicholas Batum at center against the Mavericks last year, knowing that Porzingis is not going to touch the ball for some reason.
Right. And then
Yeah.
And I know Porzingis is
Yeah.
out of that locker room, but I always wondered. I was just like, and I texted y'all about this profusely. That dude will have a 6'2" guy on him, and he won't get the damn ball. But anyways,
won't
that's
post
just like
him
one of
up
those
either.
matchups. Well, yeah, or Spo like has changed our rotation and has Max Strus in the starting lineup over Duncan Robinson now. It's just like those little nooks and crannies, and Tyler Hero's now getting into the first quarter with 6 minutes left instead of 2 and things of that nature. That's what happens in those playoff series. It gets scary hours. You kind of, as a fan, if you really dig deep and love basketball and have watched these games, you get a little kind of psyched out when you see that coach make a weird adjustment. When it's like one of those top-tier coaches, you're like, what is that guy doing that I don't know about? Mm-hmm. And then it usually pans out for the best, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, it's funny, man. Like the whole like fire Brett Brown thing. Not to harp on Philly, but I'm obviously a Philly guy.
Yeah.
Every time we lose a game right now, I hop on Twitter and Brett Brown is trending. Because it's like fire Doc Rivers. Like we could have won this game with Brett Brown. Like Brett Brown would have won this game. And like
Brett Brown.
I remember texting Sands. Like this is probably at our most hostile point in our friendship, man. Like Toronto blew the doors off us game 1. You remember this? And we were talking on Snapchat.
I was like,
through
the
Snapchat.
series is over.
Sands
Quit-
like, it's done.
quit
like,
fucking
series is
texting me.
over. Don't talk to me again. Like, y'all are done. And we come back and we win games 2 and 3, and we go up 2-1. And then Toronto wins 2 straight, and they go up 3-2. And then we force a game 7. Like, it's a game of adjustments, man, more than any other sport because you have to scout the same team and try to beat them 4 times in a week and a half. Like, I love the NBA playoffs, man. They're so fun.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Another-
Okay, you go ahead.
Before we get to the last one, before we get to the MVP, the other most hostile moment in me and Chris's friendship over basketball was when he was telling me OG Anunoby was playing good defense on LeBron, and I was just like, no, he's fucking not. LeBron's just missing jumpers. and then
he's
he
affecting his shot.
he's like he's playing great defense on him, and he was. It's just LeBron at 2018 was
it's
the
just
offensive
like-
juggernaut.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then he hit and then like 4 minutes later in the fourth
He hit
quarter,
that, like, runner,
LeBron
like,
hits
That stupid ass, like, to the left, like, off the
to
glass.
tie it up. Yeah, it was pretty funny. Yeah, it was
That's
a good time.
that's called friendship full circle right there. That's what that's what it is.
Absolutely.
I would
That's a good time.
I would add 2 cents. We had a big one about Carolina Duke also when Zion was there.
Oh
And you were
my
like,
god!
you were like, nobody's watching Carolina Duke. I was like, everyone's fucking watching Carolina Duke. Like, why would you? This game's yada yada. But we won't go back into
And
that.
then
but-
this dude Chris hits me with the I can't just sit here, have some beers, and enjoy a game with my fucking dad. I'm like, okay,
let me
make
enjoy
it
this
make
product.
it this bonding moment with your father. Why don't you? Like, I'm just talking about the game.
Damn, can I just enjoy a ball game with pops? Or what?
It was
Yeah,
so funny.
And that Toronto series too. You guys are gonna. Our listeners are going to hear me harp on the 18-19 Toronto series. I will have PTSD till the day I die with that Kawhi shot. But
Hey,
Sands,
what did we
you were-
talk about last week, bro? We said it would be 37 out of 40 podcasts. It would get brought up
I
by
told you,
Chris.
time,
and
bro.
now the plus minus of Joel Embiid's gonna get brought up. I'm like, dude, let it go.
No, but for real though, this time, to tie it
He
into
said,
to
"Listen
tie,
to me."
for styles make fights though. I'm staying on topic here. Like
Okay.
that was in totality, and damn sure the first 3 games, that Kawhi Leonard start to that Raptors-Sixers series, like, Sans, I remember us talking about his shooting splits like it was yesterday.
He was shooting
like he was
60%, averaging like 35 points.
Like he was 60, 100, his splits.
Literally.
And we had Jimmy Butler on him. And, like, at the time, Jimmy was, like, renowned, he was cooking Jimmy shit. Like, he stood no chance.
By the way,
one adjustment
the
Brett
splits,
made. Go ahead.
The splits they're referring to are the field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, and the free throw percentage.
Yeah. So
this
Kawhi,
dude was like double what a quality percentage really would be in that series. Kawhi Leonard
on an insane defensive team. Our Serge Ibaka talking about how long and big Philly was that year. Like Tobias, Ben, Joel, Jimmy. Like the team was all 6'6" and up besides JJ Redick. But Brett Brown put Ben Simmons on Kawhi. And for all our listeners, you guys might think, okay, like, who wouldn't do that? Like, Ben is a perennial all-world defender. Ben was not.
We did not know that.
We did not know that at this time. This is the series that kind of. This is the series, and Ben's talked about this, that made him actually believe, yo, there ain't nobody in the world that can get by me. I'm the best defender in the world.
But also, if we have Mavericks listeners watching, they know Luka Doncic has only been clamped, like literally shut down by one person, and it is Ben Simmons. He does not
go look at Luka's splits against Philly. I'm talking about straight up.
Yeah.
We may have to post those on here seriously because that's important.
Yeah,
because
he's a freak.
He's
like everybody talks about.
He's one of a kind defender.
Matisse Thybulle, and he is unique in his own way. But Luka puts him through the ringer. Like he just he's too small. He's too sporadic. Like Ben provides the ability to stay attached at 6'10" and gamble and recover, and he's smart and he doesn't foul. So like, not to get off topic, but styles make fights, man. I want to jump in on point 2 before we get to the MVP real quick. You talked about the GM getting credit, and you brought up Memphis in particular. So to our listeners out there, Ja Morant is at worst. He's at worst 6 in the MVP voting, to me. I think Luka and Book have probably surpassed him, and then maybe he's right there with, like, Tatum, maybe. So he's, like, anywhere from 4 to maybe 7, worst case. But
he's healthy,
funny.
It might be different.
Right. Tim Bontemps today with ESPN put out a piece on, he does this every year, about how set up every franchise is in the future. And I'm looking at it right now. They rate this, for our listeners, they rate this by the current players that you have. They give you a total score. The current players that you have, how good is your management, how much cap space and money do you have, right? Your market, which plays a big role in attracting free agents, and then your draft. What's your draft capital look like? How successful are you in the draft? Number 1 team right now is Memphis. So, it's kind of perfect.
Of all those categories?
Right, in terms of everything, they have the highest score. So to tie it back into what Landon's saying about how much should Ja Morant get punished, and we could snowball right into the MVP discussion. They're 18-2 without him. Like they should not. They should get propped up on a pedestal for developing Desmond Bane, because the guy went in the bottom of the first round. Nobody knew this guy was going to be this good. Like Jaren Jackson is. If Jaren Jackson was who they drafted him to be. Right, because people don't talk about how high he went in that draft, right? Like Jaren Jackson was what?
He was 3.
Yeah. Did Jaren Jackson? Did he go before Luka?
Was he the Luka? Yeah, he was the Luka draft.
That's what I'm saying.
I thought that.
Was he?
Wait, I thought that was
we're gonna have to pull
Bagley.
It up. Keep going.
That was Bagley to the Kings.
Bagley went.
That was
Bagley.
Okay,
but I thought Jaren Jackson went 3. You know what?
Oh, that's possible.
It's important that we clarify this. So our viewers
I'm pretty because it was DeAndre Ayton, Jaren Jackson, Marvin Bagley, Trae Young, and Luka. Luka went 5th.
And they swapped.
Yeah.
So
it says Trae Young was pick 5. I think
that's
the Hawks took Luka at 3, and then Jackson, and then Trae, and they swapped. So they.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Mavs technically got Luka at 5, but he was the 3rd player picked.
Right. So and Jaren Jackson. You know, it's not. He hasn't been. He's shown strides this year, but he hasn't been the slot he was drafted at. Imagine if he reached full potential. Point being, they're still doing this with Jaren Jackson underachieving and Ja Morant missing 20 games or 18-2. With Desmond Bane and D'Anthony Melton running around,
all about
and Steven
Jackson.
Adams was like a throw-in because they didn't want to pay Valanciunas, and like he was supposed to be a downgrade. And all of a sudden, their entire team fits. Like Tyus Jones takes care of the ball. He's like a perfect backup point guard. Like, they're just deep as hell, man. They can legit beat you with 8 people. Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, like, doing all his, like, bullshit, like,
dude,
Euros.
I cannot
stand watching
him
him.
He's the worst.
But, like, he's low-key, like,
also,
a decent player.
He's
and
molasses.
Tyus Jones has made himself a little career in the NBA.
Tyus Jones
He's
is
gonna be
nice,
one of those
man.
guys
That's a nice backup
like
point guard.
Garrett Temple and Ish Smith that are always going to
Right.
be around.
He ain't going to
It's
turn
kinda
the ball over.
crazy.
He's going to get your offense in sets. Like, he's going to play smart basketball. And in the playoffs where they value every single possession, you can't be throwing the ball out of bounds and turning it over. Tyus Jones is not going to lose you a possession. So, like, all that to
Hey,
say.
yo, Lando, can I get one of those hoodies? I know this is random. I just noticed he is wearing his own merch.
Shit,
Yeah, bro.
Let me
My
get
mom,
one, too.
my
bro.
mom
I did
made
not-
this for me. I can get this.
Oh,
made.
if you
doubt.
take the Longhorn and the star off,
you want me to put a hog,
definitely.
and
Yeah.
a fireball?
I'm about to say, we gotta
Yeah,
amend it a little
yeah.
bit. We got to amend that shit a little
Yeah.
bit. No,
Yeah.
Get one of these
Oh,
on there.
definitely.
One of these right there.
Hey, you know what though? That's a
Yeah.
great idea. That's actually a
Yeah,
really
get your
good
own
idea.
shit.
I'll cop. I'll
Yeah,
cop
get
full
your
merch.
own team.
I can do that for y'all.
Yeah,
No doubt.
I would wear that every podcast. That's just a random
doubt.
thought. But the
Then we-
MVP discussion,
Then we get
Isn't
one for Spittin
endless.
Sports. Gotta get one going.
Yeah. I
yeah,
got
let
you.
me get one of those.
Yeah, we can roll MVP
Um,
if y'all are ready.
Yeah, that's just a
And to
It's a-
to jump in, say, I don't know where I'm going with this one.
Yeah.
Like the surge that Giannis is making right now on national television. Like, bro, he's right.
that's also the thing.
He's
It's
back, bro. Like,
Bro,
It-
okay,
the-
real quick, tonight,
yeah. Go ahead.
Chris Middleton fouled out, or he had a flagrant 2, automatic ejection. The Nets went on like a 8-0 run. We're up by 10 with, 3 minutes left. Giannis straight up willed the Bucks to come back. They tie it up, get to overtime.
and Sands
and then
put
they
in
get
the
dub.
text. Somehow Milwaukee's going to tie this game.
He did say that.
When they're
He
down
did
by
say
10.
They're down by
They do it every game
They do.
I watched them. They're down by 9-11 with 3 minutes left. That game in the NBA, you can get to 5 and then it's over.
Right, and then
They always tie it.
right, and then they hit
Right.
like the backbreaker 3 to push it to 8, and like the other team lays down. So like you'll hear these people harp on this like cliche ass. That's a championship team. They have championship DNA. Like that's no joke with Milwaukee, bro. Giannis does not allow them every single night to get squashed. Like he single-handedly wills them. Like he hit that step back 3, and I'm like, I'm gonna scratch everything I've ever known, said, believed. He's the best player in the world. Like, I'm just gonna do this
Yep.
tonight.
Dude,
like that dude is just different, bro. Like he's just different.
that-
Hey,
to
for
me-
context. Yeah, go ahead.
That to me was just like a parallel universe. Like it was as if he hit the step back 3 and I just saw the future. Like I just saw 10 years from now, like LeBron isn't better than Giannis. Like I saw the arguments on national television right in front of me when he couldn't shoot 8 months ago. He would have not shot that shot. 8 months ago, he wouldn't have shot it. And then right now, he's like, what?
Yep.
30 seconds
bro,
left.
that's-
Pull it.
People gotta
Right.
And he wants to. He wasn't
that's-
forced to.
People gotta
he
understand,
wants
bro.
to.
Like, I tweeted this in response to somebody today. That free throw performance in Game 6 of the NBA Finals, where he dropped a 50 ball and what did he shoot, like 17 for 20, something crazy at the foul line. He's not an elite free throw shooter right now, but he's at like 73% plus, which like for Giannis, he was Ben Simmons level territory at the foul line, not playoff Ben Simmons.
Ben
that's like
Wallace.
that's whole different. Yeah, he was, and like he has no fear of getting there now. I saw today also he is a league average 3-point shooter, bro. Like, will y'all think about that for a sec? Like,
That's crazy.
he's not a movement shooter. Like, you're not guarding him like you guard the great ones, but like, you no longer can like give that up and just be like, that's clanging off the backboard, like that's clanging off the
Right.
rim. Like he's got a
and
decent
for
shot
an
to
example,
make
dog, it took Rondo 14 years for you to have to at least put a hand up.
that. Yeah,
Like,
Bubble
Giannis is
Rondo
out
was
there,
getting
like,
loose.
And that's the
Yeah.
thing with people like Giannis. You can't give him space because he's going to run through you. But, yeah,
There's
it's,
no way
it's
to
kind of
guard him.
crazy with
There's no way to guard him.
with the Giannis run. With the Giannis run and this MVP thing, like I was going to say, it's an endless discussion. Like, if you want to talk value per player, like Jokic and Embiid, this conversation can literally last for 3 hours
Yeah.
of
3
just
weeks.
what matters more.
Yeah.
It's the way that I always bring it down, and it's a shitty, cliche, standard answer. It is the narrative. That's why Chris goes, I don't know about Giannis. He's going off on national television, and that matters because I hate to tell you guys out there, just because somebody has credentials as if they know the game doesn't mean they watch it like that. doesn't mean they actually know
100%,
it
bro.
like that.
100%.
It just means that they
Spot on.
have credentials because they've been in the media that long, and they get to have a vote. Oh, hey, we mailed you, and you get an MVP vote. Aren't you happy? And they're like, oh my God, I've watched 10 games this year. We're at the All-Star break. What do I do? And then you start watching
That's how-
national televised games, and there you go.
Yeah, like if you
It's
stay,
horrible.
you stay plugged into, you kind of get a feel for, like Sans, you said you don't really care about the All NBA. Like, I do personally. Like that's where we differ. And as much as Bontemps, I go back and forth on him. That's really important to him because he said it. He feels like it tells a historical sense of where the league was. Like when you look back, you look at All NBAs. Like that's a big
That's
big
true.
deal.
That's true.
So he said he loves All NBA because he spends more time on All NBA than any other voting process throughout his tenure. Like he really spends every ounce possible to put together the proper team. Whereas you contrast that with a guy like Brian Windhorst, who the running joke on the Hoop Collective was last year he's taken a beat. And this year he's been saying the same thing. Jokic can go 50, 14, and 9 for 3 months straight, and Wendy would it's still Embiid. It's still Embiid. And it's like, as much as I love that as an Embiid fan, like that's irresponsible voting to me. You know what I mean? And that stuff just fucking matters to me. To your point, like there's a bunch of dudes with credentials that ain't really watching the games like that and ain't really allowing their narrative to be swayed just because they don't want to be moved off the hill. So like Giannis is 100% in the discussion right now.
I would also say my bias is because I don't have any All-NBA caliber players on my team right now. I think they are Jimmy and
they're
Bam
all NBA
are
caliber,
All-NBA
but they're
caliber.
not having All NBA seasons.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
I don't think they're going to be like, All-NBA. That's also why I don't care.
Right.
Even when Jimmy made it, I'm sorry, I just didn't care. And it's not because it doesn't matter to a historical context. Because when you go back, when you hear this MJ Braun
Exactly.
argument,
When you're
even in the
stacking
simplest
legacies,
form,
that's the shit you're counting.
They go all NBAs. They go all defensive or first team all defensive. They go defensive player of the year. So I understand that. It's more of that I don't respect flawed processes,
sure.
as if I
get that
don't
for sure.
respect a person that just says all confirmation bias type shit.
Yeah.
Shout out Michael. And I just don't. Sorry. They don't know who Michael is. He's a friend that's a Mavs fan. He said Dennis Smith Jr. was the next coming of Derrick Rose. I think I was almost there. But that's all I'm saying.
Almost got there.
He would go 1 for 12, and it was an off game, but then he goes 6 for 15, and he's like, oh, you see it? It's D Rose. But yeah, it's just a flawed process. I said about the All NFL team as well, the All Pro in the NFL. It's just I don't respect something that's so flawed, even though I don't think the MVP voting is even close to being as flawed as the All-NBA process. And to touch on that, guard, why do we have classified positions in 2022? Why are we putting people...
We don't
boy,
have
this
time
is
to
a-
rant on that.
yeah.
I'll be here all night.
Yeah,
man.
but I'm just saying...
This is a whole new can of
but
worms.
I'm just saying, in the voting booth,
It's stupid.
why is Jason Tatum a guard/forward? Why are people listed at two positions? It makes no sense to me. It just I said do it as an all-star team. What's it gonna hurt if you do 3 of the front court and 3 of the back court? What is 18 instead of 15 gonna hurt? What is that gonna honestly? What is it gonna do?
Yeah, or just list the 5 best players, man.
That Sixers fan on Twitter, he said he was just talking about the hypothetical, fraudulent made-up space that would be taken up if you accidentally have 3 big men on the floor at the same time.
On this All-NBA team. So what, dude? We're about to Joel Embiid's finishing 3rd in MVP this year at worst. He's about to be a back-to-back second-team All-NBA guy after finishing 2nd and 3rd in the MVP voting. Somebody walk me through that shit like I'm 12. Doesn't make any sense to anybody. And people are gonna look back. People are gonna look back. To Sam's point, you can only count the hard stats. You don't remember their Game 6 performance in the second round. You look at all defensive teams, Defensive Player of the Years, All NBA, MVPs, and people are gonna look back. And Jokic is gonna have 4 or 5 first team All NBAs, and Joel is gonna have 4 second team, and they're gonna be like, Jokic is clearly better. Maybe he never made a first team All NBA at center. Yada yada yada. It just it impacts the way. Maybe not so much the people who grew up watching them are going to rank their legacy-wise, but for the future people who never got to see them. The same boat we're in for Jordan and Magic and Bird and all that. All we can look at, what is your point per game, rebound, assist? and how many All-NBA defensive yada yada. It's just like it matters, man. Like it matters in historical context of the league.
My papa always told me history never shows small deficiencies. It only shows big losses and big wins. He's a Native American man, so it never shows small deficiencies or small victories, but it always shows the big wins and the big losses, nothing in between.
And it's not,
so
it's definitely flawed, but like it still does a good job. For example, like Luka's about to be 23 with 3 first-team All-NBAs, and like every bit of that shit is earned. Like, don't doubt for a second he should have been second team in any of these years because, no, he's perennial top 5, 7 player in the world. That list is like ever so changing, but Luka's right there, man.
Yeah.
I also did real quick want to say Sans mentioned talking about like speaking to the future earlier, and how the way that the world will view Giannis, kind of elevating him on the pedestal a little bit higher than LeBron. Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to add to that is that's 100% true. Inevitably, that day will come when LeBron is talked about like people used to talk about Mike, and when Giannis is talked about like people used to talk about LeBron, and then after Giannis, it might be Luka, and then after Luka, it's gonna be somebody else. Like they already tried to do that, though. I mean, the thing is just like painting narratives and stuff like that, as far as what matters, what doesn't, how you're stacking guys up based on the teammates that they were on. Like
it's
everything,
so intricate.
everything comes into play.
But
they tried to do that with Steph already, and they're literally, so that's gonna happen inevitably. And then also too, talking about Giannis. Just that's the one dude that you don't want to see. Chris mentioned last week also, I thought it was interesting. He said watching everybody else in the All-Star game and then watching Giannis, it's like
it's different, bro.
10 dudes are out there for leisure on vacation, or 9 guys out on the court, trying to just enjoy the moment and take it easy, jogging up and down the court right for the first 3 quarters. But Giannis is out there like denying inbound passes and shit. Like,
what are you doing?
Dude,
why are you full court pressing, dog? Like, fam, we're all making a quarter of a billy right now. Like, lay off me. I'm trying to hit a
dog.
360.
I'm trying to get some cardio. Like, give me a little, a little one of these in there. And Giannis is, like you said, full court pressing. Like he treats it like Game 7, man. But I like as much as. As annoying as it is, you have to respect it because to him, that's, like, let me remind the world where I stand amongst the best of the best. Like, I'm the best player on this court. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't care if it's personal to him, always to me. And that's what separates him. Like, I mean, I even see it now, man. Like, I root for James Harden. He's on my squad, but you'd be remiss to not question, like, how much does James Harden, like, really love ball, bro? Because he just checks out way too often for me. And it's the same thing. Me and Sands used to go back and forth for years on Russell Westbrook. And yet, I'm not comparing him to Giannis. He has a ton of flaws, but like playing
he's a
hard,
6'3" Giannis.
Playing hard every single night is a skill, bro. Like that's something Russ is going to be remembered for in his heyday. Before these bullshit Laker years, is like his effort. He brings it every single night, man. Like that's something you just got to respect to me. So, mad props to Giannis. He's going to be top 10 all time when he's done. Easy. He's going to be a shoe in the top 10.
And guys. Before we move on to another topic, we're going to take a break right here. You see how I did that professional? We're going to take a break, stop this recording so my data doesn't go out, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, let the computer rest.
Absolutely.
You got that
Why
you got the soundboard ready?
It won't play it now.
Okay.
Damn.
We're working through it.
Dude. Y'all will literally skip through the first 4 minutes of my podcast because I'm just shooting the shit with Sands. I was going crazy. It was an amazing pod.
I will check it out actually, and I know what you mean. The podcast creativity stuff is fun. Like when you learn a new skill, it's just like anything else in life. You learn how to do something new. It's really
you don't understand.
Yeah, it's addicting.
Nia will attest. When I learned how to do the music and have my tags on it and I could talk over it, dude, today the hair on my arms stood up.
I feel you.
I'm not.
I totally
bro,
get
I
that.
go. Like right now, think about the hair on my back of my neck is standing up. I was like, oh my God, bro. Like, I'm going to have even more fun. Like, I'm screaming in the mic, turn the fuck up. Like, I'm going crazy on my micro music. Like, it was so fun today.
Right
so
next month, bro.
I love
Dude, I can't wait to.
Yeah, like, I'm blowing up.
When does it drop? Today is April 1st
It's going
officially.
to drop tomorrow.
So, okay.
So you'll have to listen to it on Spotify with the jam session because
The copyright?
the restrictions
Yeah.
on YouTube are absolutely, and they will like I can play music on it, but it'll take it down instantly if it has
It
too
gets
much.
copyrighted quick. They don't play around. It's like the
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the plague, man. They'll get you. But MVP talk, man. The we didn't really get to that. I think we cut it off right around the 50 some odd minute mark. We're gonna try to keep this one around 1:15. Hour 15, and then maybe get into some NFL draft talk. Chris and I have a lot of thoughts on that, and then I know Sands has some interesting nuggets on the Todd Bowles situation now that he has been elevated to head coach, now that Bruce Arians has
Rooney Rule.
Sorry, the Rooney Rule. It actually reminded me of Gary Patterson. I wanted to jokingly put out on Twitter today. So Bruce Arians is taking on the Gary Patterson role. I thought that was interesting. More of a front office kind of overseeing more of your day-to-day activities and roster
He
building,
gonna
all
quit
that
in
stuff.
2
Yeah,
days.
Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna try to keep this around 1:15, but we can't end this without having the actual official MVP discussion. We can talk about how you quantify it because we didn't really necessarily specifically hone in on that third bullet point. As far as how do you quantify the word value in MVP, most valuable player. But do you guys have any initial thoughts? As like Chris mentioned it last week with the whole replacement level player thing. Like Joel Embiid leaves the floor, his backup plays like shit. Therefore, it looks like Joel Embiid is more important, or vice versa, right? If his backup is really good, it looks like Joel Embiid's MVP value may be. You can find ways to nitpick. So, how do you combat that? And then who is the MVP right now?
I will say this I just think that there is a false kind of thought process behind MVP within a lot of national media people, as in you have to be the best player in the world almost to win MVP, or the best player in the world should have won MVP every year.
Yeah.
So when Charles Barkley won MVP, he was probably the most valuable player on his team and not Michael Jordan. Derrick Rose, to me, wasn't the most valuable player, but I'm a Heat fan, and LeBron was on my team, but he was. He took a franchise as a 22-year-old to a 66-16 record, and that's what you get. To quantify value is impossible to me, and that's my wishy-washy answer. It's an impossible thing to do.
You almost have to ride the
You
fence.
can go... And now, I think, in my personal opinion, I'm not pandering to Chris because I hate him. He's a piece of shit.
Like that, man.
I would
He was
say
almost a cool guy, but he was an Eagles fan.
I would say that Embiid has almost lost any MVP value to national media because he got Harden on his team. I think it's literally become the starting five isn't Tobias, Seth Curry, Furk, and Embiid, and that's what you have out there. And now you have Harden on the back of his jersey, so he has less MVP value than a dude with the Jokic, who has Aaron Gordon, Will Barton, Monte Ellis,
Monty Morris.
and I don't even know the
Morris, yeah.
Monte
Ellis.
He'd be begging for Monte Ellis.
I said Monte Ellis. Yeah, dude. Yeah, I can't even name the fifth guy on that team, like literally, and I watch basketball every day.
Probably like Jeff Green.
And
for him,
I
like,
think to
Yeah, Jeff
Year
Green.
20
It is
Jeff
Jeff
Green.
Green.
That's it.
It is.
Yep.
yeah, and Chris has been hawking Nuggets box scores because
I'm
he's scared
hawking
Joel
games.
won't win the MVP. And it's
I'm
over.
watching
He's
Nuggets
just
Thunder
up.
to the wire right now, like praying for him to miss a shot. He's just not. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah. So, but to answer that question is almost impossible for me. But I would say guys like I would just counterpoint things of Ja getting knocked down because his team is good is kind of stupid.
18-2
Because
without him.
they
right?
aren't the second seed.
Yeah.
Yeah, they aren't the second seed without him. Let's be real. But then you go, then the opposite point. This is what I do on my podcast where I just ramble to myself because I don't have two other people on the podcast with me. I go, wait, so they're 16-2 without him. But if I go, they're not the second seed without him. You go, well, they're 16-2 without him. It's a big sample size. And then you legitimately could have an argument that they would be a top 6 seed right now without John Morant if they're 16-2 in an 18-game sample.
If you spread out
Which is
that
kind of crazy.
ratio,
Extrapolate it. Yeah.
yeah, throughout a full 82. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, in a sense, with Giannis, you go, he's just the best player in the world, so he gets an automatic top 3 bid. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And I would say, once again, I was right. Toot, toot. That's me, honking my horn. Toot, 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 toot. I told y'all he was going to step it up. He was going to step it up. We hadn't seen the best of him. And 2 of his 10 40-point games have come in back-to-back games this season. So, but my MVP,
TV
to get my
against
MVP.
the Sixers and the Nets. Like,
yeah, so that's a big deal, too. The national TV things. Yeah, my MVP, a man that I had, I think, 4th on my podcast because I literally can't watch
It's Luka, bro.
that
It's Luka.
fat piece of shit play basketball.
The honey bun himself.
That honey bun, Fruit Loop, toucan nosed son of a bitch is Nikola Jokic, and he has won the MVP, and that's what it is. That's who it is. That's what it is. And if I was to get my real MVP vote, it would probably be Giannis or Luka, to be honest. One of the underrated guys down at the bottom because they're showing out when it matters. But it's going to be Jokic.
Yeah, there's really not much else I can add to that. So I'll let Chris he can provide some better context just because he's been watching it a little bit closer, given that he is a Sixers fan and Joel Embiid was right there in the discussion for 70 some odd games.
I want it to be Embiid, man.
Yeah,
I really do.
You want it so
like,
bad.
Heart to hearts, like,
but you know,
like we talk about narratives too, which is a big part of MVP voting, and there's definitely, the Ben Simmons thing. That's fine. You could argue Jokic has been dealing with a similar situation, less drama, but he's without 2 max slot players. Like Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are simply like not playing basketball.
Yeah,
Michael Porter is the most untalked about actual star in the NBA. He is a star, not a superstar. He is a star in the league.
For whatever you want to talk about the aesthetic of how Jokic looks playing basketball, they're 1 game back on the Sixers in the loss column.
He's amazing.
And like 3 on the Bucks. Like they're 46 and 31, I think. Like they're right there, man.
And he's playing alone.
He's playing alone, and he's
playing alone.
The guy's averaging like 27, 14, and 8 on like 60%. Basically,
yeah.
He's
And
just so
the listener knows that he's playing alone. These 2 guys right here watch just about every NBA game that occurs just in some capacity.
Yeah,
right. And they couldn't name. We had to struggle to name the 5th starter around Jokic.
Had to think
so
about
if that tells you anything,
yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I want Embiid to win, and I talked about narrative too. Like there's some feeling amongst Sixers fans that if Embiid played more games last year, he would have won it. Like we kind of feel like it got pulled out from under him due to injury, which is unfortunately been like a theme of his career.
That's not even close. Yeah,
we kind of, at least we would have hoped that Embiid would have won it last year. So when he starts playing the way he's playing, and he actually started off the season very, very slowly. I think he banged knees with Valanciunas the very first game against the Pelicans. And he talks about how when he missed 9 games with COVID, that was actually a blessing in disguise because he got to rest for 3 weeks.
Got the heel up.
Yeah, because his knee just wasn't right. Then he went on that like ridiculous. It was like a month and a half tear where the guy was going like 40 every. It was like what DeMar did. Embiid did that for a stretch like earlier in the year, like just going.
Yeah, and as a big man making the same levels. I remember just seeing your tweets. Just yet another Joel Embiid appreciation tweet, and I was like, damn, he had another 40-point night.
If I had to see the best basketball player on earth,
you already know.
Joel Embiid, I was literally.
Was it semicolon or colon?
I was going crazy.
It was nightly, bro. You could use either one, bro. They both apply here.
They both apply.
But he's a better defender than Jokic, which I don't think people put enough credence into, right? Like when you're talking about best players in the world, the guys who could truly play like 2 ways. That's why Giannis is a freak.
Yeah.
Right? Because he can do it on both ends. And I feel like
to that point, I did hear a very, very respected person within the NBA circle say that it might have been somebody on the inside the NBA crew. When Joel Embiid is on the floor, you are automatically a top 5 defense in the NBA.
Yep. So JJ talked about that on his pod today. Aside from, I think, his rookie year where they were number 5, when he's on the floor, they have the equivalent of the number 1 defense in the NBA. Like, just by him being on the floor. JJ Redick was talking about how his defensive, like, plus-minus was positive, and he was like, it damn sure wasn't because of me. I wasn't guarding anybody. That's just because I shared the floor with big man back there. Like, that's because you were on the floor. So it's like...
Also, I touched on some podcasts, not to interrupt, Chris. I said Joel Embiid will never be respected as a elite top-tier talent on the defensive end until he averages less than 30
He talked about that. He talks about that all the time, how he came in the league. His goal when he came in, don't mean to sidetrack the audience from the MVP voting, but his goal was to win Defensive Player of the Year. Like he says, he never in a million years thought his offense would be what it is now. And now he says, now that I'm averaging 30, and we've got people posting highlight Twitters.
I don't believe that.
We've got people posting highlight videos like Mirage, like Embiid pulling the same moves that Jordan and Kobe are doing, like side by side. The guy like literally watches a YouTube clip of a guard.
I love those.
And then goes to his trainer Drew Hanlon. And he's like, "Hey, can we try this?" And then the guy just like pulls it out of his bag. Like the guy's a freak. But
also, I don't
Drew
believe
Hanlon,
that because his pro comp when he came out of the draft was Hakeem Olajuwon, and you never see those comps coming out of the draft. But
I feel like you do. Like
I don't believe anything.
We took Markelle Fultz number 1. His comp was James Harden. Then the guy forgot how to shoot. Like
literally
like they do this.
It's literally because he's left-handed. I swear to God, that was why.
Markelle Fultz. They said
Markelle
Fultz is gonna be James Harden. Like straight up.
I'll never forget Mikal Bridges pops up and it says Kawhi Leonard and almost turned off the TV. And that's when like Kawhi was in his prime. I was like, Jay Billis, get the fuck off my screen. Now, I literally can't see your bald egghead ass anymore. Like I'm sick.
And now Mikal is like a legitimate two-way player though.
He's like amazing. And Philly traded him away. How do you feel about that, Chris? That's great. Okay, MVP. How do you quantify value? That's what we need to get to because that is the long, hard discussion.
No real way,
here
man.
Is what do you quantify?
Know how to help our I don't know how to help our listeners here. Like it's a combination of everything. Your stats matter, the eye test matters. Like it all just kind of matters. Like I would probably go. I agree with Sanders. I think Jokic is going to win again. Like the push that he's making late, he's shooting 70% a night, dropping 35, 14 or 9. Like I just think he's probably going to edge it out. And Bontemps does that straw poll. I know that y'all are familiar with that straw poll. Has like never lied, like ever.
Mm-hmm.
And Jokic has a lead.
It was nuked.
Jokic pulled ahead by a good little bit.
Insurmountable.
So I think he's probably going to close it out. Honestly, man, I'd probably go Giannis at 2 right now. I'd probably go Giannis at 2. I think for all the people thinking that that's a crazy jump is wrong. If you listen to anyone in the know, it's been a legit like 3-horse race the whole year with maybe Jokic and Embiid and then Giannis like hovering around. Then there's a big drop. Giannis has always been there. And I just think what he's been doing in the public eye, making the late push for the Bucks, and they're probably going to finish with the 1 seed because people like to, seeding and your record matters too at the end of the year, right?
For sure.
If Philly's sitting with the same record as the Nuggets, Philly loses that argument now between Embiid and Jokic, and all Philly did was add James Harden, and they're still going to finish with the same record. Like it's going to look worse. It's going to dampen his case, though Embiid's play hasn't slipped off at all. That's mainly been a proponent of James Harden showing up every other night. Like you never know what you're going to get right now. Guy's a coin flip, but I'll probably go Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, to be honest with you. And also, it's not what another narrative that Philly fans were hoping Embiid ran with was he's going to win the scoring title. And then Bron overtook that. And don't look now, Giannis might win that bitch too.
Yep.
Giannis might win that bitch too. Giannis, I think he's probably at 30 points per game right now. Like him and Bron's going to be right there. I heard on a podcast that you have to play 58 games, I think, to qualify for the scoring title. And Bron's at 55.
Okay. Yeah.
So Bron's gonna hit that 3-game threshold and be like, I'm good. Like
he's strapping up that ankle brace now. He's like, all right, 3 games
later on today.
You know what? Also, before we move on to something else, it's so funny when we talk about Jokic just playing by himself, and this is a LeBron guy. In 2018, LeBron wasn't even in the talks for MVP.
Right.
Wasn't in the talks. Talking about a guy that averaged 28, 9, and 8, I believe, in his career, or in that year. Wasn't talked about in his starting 5. Jesus. He had Jeff Green as well. Kevin Love, a shell of himself. J.R. Smith was starting on his team, and he had George
Jay
Hill.
Smooth's elite, so he's got some help there.
So you're
I see what you're saying.
okay. Jesus
I can't
Lord.
not picture the
The
LeBron
debate's
meme when
about-
he's doing this.
Right. Hey, and to your point,
Yeah.
saying is like
Yeah.
the first straw poll last year, Braun was in the lead by a comfortable margin before
should've
Homeboy
been.
dove into his ankle and took out, and then he missed like half the year.
Remember, they were a half game out of the 1 seed when LeBron got hurt. Don't ever forget that. Remember that shit, all you Dallas fans out there that are booing me when I walk into the stadium with a Heat jersey on. Remember that shit. How about that?
Yeah, but I would honestly go Jokic, Giannis, Embiid, Luka, and then one of Ja Tatum or Book, probably.
Hey, and for the record, toot my own horn. Toot toot. I'm gonna do that every time I say that I'm right. Toot
We gotta get a
toot.
sound
I
effect
had
on the
Giannis.
soundboard.
I had Giannis number 2 in my MVP voting.
He's making
my
a push.
midseason
He's got a
award.
shot for sure. But ultimately, I think Jokic is going to win it, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Me
Embiid's
too.
going to get left off first team, and the whole debacle is going to happen again. But, it is what it is.
I have Luka at number 4 as
Philly
well,
sets on fire.
just for the record. But he
Like-
is still number 1 in
You
my
should.
heart. So
Dog,
we'll
Dallas
ride on the
Dallas been arguably the best team in the league since the All-Star break. Like, it was them at Boston.
Yeah, they're
like, Luka's been on a fucking
32
tear, man.
and 7 in their last
Yeah.
49 games,
Luka's
or
been going-
39 games, I think.
Luka's
Something
been
like
going
that.
dummy. Like, lately, we're talking 35, 12, and 12, and the guy ain't even playing 4 quarters. Like,
The new debate for the next decade is going to be the LeBron and KD debate is going to be Giannis and Luka.
Yeah, for sure,
So
for sure.
can't wait to
That's
see
what I
it.
was kind of saying earlier,
It's
as
gonna
far
be
as like elevating the pedestal. It went Michael Jordan, and then it's LeBron, and then it's Steph is kind of they're trying to push him, and now it's still LeBron, and then now it's Giannis, and then after Giannis, it's going to be Luka. There's always that next guy.
I want to touch on this real quick, and then we can move on. And for real, move on. But I got to get this in there.
Go ahead.
Before Giannis
Oh,
signed
God.
his Supermax, and I don't mean to hate, but I have to bring this up. Multiple fan bases probably said it, but I remember hearing it on like Dallas Twitter. Tony said it, I know.
Oh, I
we-
said
like,
it. I know
are-
what you're going to say, and I am guilty.
Like,
yes.
are we sure we want Giannis here in Dallas? Like, how do him and Luka like kind of fit? And I'm like that. It was
I said
dumb
it. I
then.
did.
It
I
is
s- I
never
said it.
like it is breaking my brain that actually like was on my timeline. I'm like,
Yeah.
there's no way you believe that.
Yeah.
But
Me as a
like
Heat fan,
yeah, and like Miami's
I'm
like,
like, give him
me
Spo.
give me him.
I don't give a shit. Give him
up
Spo.
Bam,
Give him
D'Lo,
Pat.
like everybody. But the NBA.
And
I told y'all I'd pack Tyler Hero's
do
bags
y'all
to get James
remember?
Harden 2
Do
years
y'all
ago.
remember who I said I wanted? And instead,
Bradley
nope.
Beal.
Oh,
Well, yeah, he was always up there, but he plays for the Pistons right now.
Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant.
Jeremy Grant was who I said.
He walks away. He's gotta take
That's
a
what I
lap,
need.
bro.
To do. I need to go to bed now because of that. But hey, I'm owning it up. I'm owning up to
No,
it, man.
you got to. Bro.
Nobody's safe. Nobody's safe.
Nobody's safe, bro. All old takes exposed on here. The NBA. That's the thing about the NBA too, man. It's ever evolving. It's very much like what have you done for me lately, like most sports. But
Yeah.
just Giannis is a freak show, man. But I'd give it to Jokic, probably. Jokic, Giannis, and Embiid, probably in that order, for sure.
Sounds good, man. Listen, I think this is a great place to start. I think we're right at about the We're right about the 1 hour 15-minute mark. I actually just got a text from the lovely my wife Case. She said, "Yeah, I'm a dad now, so I got dad duty. Baby's gonna need a diaper change. So if y'all want to continue this discussion, feel free. But I got stuff to do. So." This was fun, man. I think there was a lot of great stuff that was covered. It was actually an NBA only edition, which I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah.
So, shout out to you guys, man. This was fun. Can't wait to do it again. We might be reconvening, I think, for some NFL draft or just NFL draft talk, and then a couple of the offseason free agency decisions that have been going on too that are always fun to hit on. But
Yep.
yeah. Are we good?
That
We
ought
have
to
a
do it, boys. Yeah.
We're